I cut him off. He was probably saying thank you for letting him come up. Uh, let's try to bring the next guest up. Conservative Christian. Oh boy. Yo, what's up, conservative? How old are you?
18,
What year were you born?
March 4th, 2008.
Okay. Which claim do you disagree with?
I'm going with the abortion thing.
Um, is there something else you'd rather like talk about?
We could just talk a little
You're cutting out really bad, sir.
before you. All right, is it better?
Um, keep talking. I'll let you know.
I was just going to say, like, I kind of disagree with that lady before on how she was talking about, like, you can't have an opinion on abortion. I bet you also disagreed, but I was kind of pissing me off. I don't know if she's still in here, but I was going to kind of get your view on abortion and why you think it's allowed and just kind of your take on it.
Well, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on this just due to the fact that I have had this debate like more times than I've wanted to. Obviously, it's
Uh,
not on my panel for that reason, but I'll go ahead and just go over some of the reasons. Um, I think that abortion is totally morally permissible up until the point in which the fetus experiences sentience. I think anything prior to that point, I don't hold any value to that fetus. I don't really care about its future experience until that point. I hold more of the moral stance in which I believe that it's totally permissible to unalive a fetus that can't feel any pain, and I don't see like the moral like inconsistency with why you would find it morally permissible to force a woman to give birth to a fetus that they didn't want.
so you don't partake in that whole argument of kind of the future life of it or anything of that. You just kind of see it as if it's receiving pain, not really if it will have a life.
I mean, sure, I could entertain the future of that fetus to the capacity in which you would want me to, but I don't think you'd really appreciate that argument.
Mm.
Well, would you like me to entertain that? Because I will.
No, I was just getting your stance on it.
Okay. What's your stance, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I think abortion should not be allowed in any circumstance. Um, I think,
So you're an abolitionist?
I guess you could say that. Um, I think, me personally, I feel like it should be outlawed, or you should be able to have one if it's going to, you know, kill or maim the mother. But I understand how that could be pretty tough to regulate throughout, mass legislation. Um, so I just think it'd be easier just to outlaw it in general.
Mm, okay. Um, Real quick. Surfer, if you request into the box, I will get to you next. Okay? So make sure that you're in the queue, and after I finish with this debate, we can have a discussion about whatever you'd like. Okay? Um, Now, conservative. Um,
Hmm.
I would just like to ask you some moral consistencies about your your moral standing, because
Yeah.
when you tell me that you don't find abortion to be like morally permissible in any circumstance at all whatsoever, I find that to be rather like absurd. So um, why is it that you would value a fetus's life that doesn't have a rationale yet, does not experience thoughts, feelings, and emotion? Why would you hold it to be permissible to keep that thing alive and not the mother?
Well, that's what I was saying. I was I would favor the mother's life if it were to kill her, but if you're talking about occasions where it wouldn't, I just think it's protection of a unprotected species. Um,
Oh,
were you going to say something?
yeah, I was just gonna say, okay, so you're not an abolitionist, so you're not as crazy as I thought. But continue with the unprotected species.
Yeah. My whole kind of argument comes from you can't really, or it can't really protect itself. So I just think kind of eliminating that life is morally wrong in my opinion. Now going back to the whole thing, I could see a viewpoint where you know there were some complications in pregnancy. Doctor tells you, hey, if you go through with this, you know, delivery, you're going to either die or like, God forbid, some crazy injuries that wouldn't allow you to have another child. I would see that viewpoint, but going back, I just don't think it should be allowed or not allowed. My bad. That was a bad word. I just think it would be really hard to regulate that throughout, like one solidified law, if that made sense.
Um, I mean, yeah, I think if we were to hold this, I'll entertain it for a second and say that, like, yeah, it is bad whenever, like, we eliminate a fetus for, like, let's say that I hold to the view that killing a fetus when the life of the mother isn't, like, at risk to be murdered. If I was to hold that view, simply the thing that I would say is that we would have to charge the doctor for malpractice,
Hmm.
and obviously manslaughter, because he wrongly diagnosed the patient, saying that, like, your life could be at risk or your future to be able to have another child would be in jeopardy. That would be on the doctor, not necessarily like the mother. Firstly, secondly, I just think that women should ask for a second opinion, like, from another doctor naturally, before they go through with something like that. Because obviously, if they're carrying it to the point past the first trimester anyway, unless, like, we're looking at it from, like, the stance in which, like, now, there are a lot of women that don't have access to an abortion anyway, even if their life is at risk. I would just say that, like, if they're holding it past that point, exempting the fact that, like, they couldn't possibly get an abortion up until that point, um, they wouldn't just want to kill off that fetus. Like, they
Hmm.
hold some, like, moral value to it, and I have no problem with that. I'm not saying that they should abort the baby. I'm saying that it should be a discussion that her and her partner potentially have a discussion about, and she seeks a second opinion to be able to make sure that, the doctor isn't, like, overseeing something that's not actually, like, truthful. Um, my other argument, since you already kind of, like, have conceded to the fact that you hold a moral value to the life of the mother over the fetus, I would just ask you, what makes that fetus more valuable than a brain dead patient then? Because we have, like, no moral, like, obligation to keep the brain dead patient alive, even though, like, it's an indefensible species, right? So, like,
Yeah, and I guess to that point, I would say it is also morally wrong. I didn't really give a statement on what I think about that whole issue. Um, I did deal with it like a year ago, not to go into that whole thing, but I would also say that it is morally wrong. I understand if you want to keep him or her alive for a little bit, just to kind of let family members or something, say goodbye, technically. But I just think morally, if they have, signs of no brain activity or anything like that, it would just be better to give them to God in that whole kind of sense, if that was what you were asking.
so you also hold to the fact that we shouldn't keep brain dead patients alive. um, or we should. I'm a bit confused. So
We
you
should
don't
not.
think that we should keep brain dead patients alive? Okay, great.
Overall should not.
Um,
I understand if
uh,
people want to keep them alive for like sentimental value, if they want to say goodbyes or something like that for like a week, maybe. But overall, it should not.
okay, I agree with you. So this is great. So let me ask you, what do you value in the fetus prior to sentience that you don't value in the brain dead patient?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
What do you value in the fetus that you don't value in the brain dead patient? What's the
Pertaining
difference
pertaining to what argument?
prior to sentience?
Okay, I think I understand. Pertaining, fetus versus brain dead patient. I think my argument comes from the brain dead patient doesn't really have a chance to live. And I agree, you should go get a second opinion, third opinion, about if there's brain activity and if there's a chance of coming back or anything like that. But the fetuses have a chance to live and a chance to have a life, and I just don't think that should be stripped away from them, on any stance.
Let me make sure that I have your premise correct, because I might be missing something. I just want to make sure that I have all of the bases covered for what your argument is. So you find abortion to be morally justified due to the fact that it's stripping away the life of a future potential being that could have a life like you and I, a human life at that. And that stripping that away from being able to reach that point in which it would be like, a human being like you and I, which we can both agree would be sentience, would be considered murder, right? That covers like all of the bases as to what you're saying, right? Any blockage of that being able to grow into a human being or be able to reach birth is immorally wrong.
Yeah, yeah, I think that covered it.
Okay, so when you self pleasure yourself, are you committing genocide?
Ooh, I was not expecting that. I wouldn't say so,
Why?
because you mean like I think you're talking about like sperm cells. Is that what you're referring to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, there is no fetus in that sense. There's no performed zygote where the sperm cells hatched an egg, and there's really nothing happening. There's no process taking place where the fetus comes into play.
Right, but if you didn't self pleasure yourself, then there's the possibility for every single one of those sperm cells to potentially fertilize an egg. So, by your moral principle, which is any blockage of preventing that fetus or that clump of cells to be able to grow up into a human being that is able to be born and experience life experience like you and I, that would be intentionally blocking them from being able to have that experience.
I wouldn't think so. Like, all right, taking that argument, would you think having sex is also mass genocide because of the sperm cells that didn't reach
By
the
your
egg?
argument, yes.
By your argument, what would you say?
By my argument, I don't hold it to be I don't hold sperm cells to be valuable because I don't even see like a zygote prior to sentience to be valuable. So no, it's not genocide.
Okay. Yeah, I just wouldn't view either as genocide.
Okay, but like you can't just say nah. Like
I know
we've
what you
had a
mean.
great discussion up until this point, but I would just like to hear an argument for why without saying just nah.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't really say no. I know where you're coming from, but um, just nothing's happened. I'm not saying it's you don't really have a bad argument to be honest, but you know there is something that happens with the sperm cell in the egg where it creates a living being at that point. I guess not really, but a zygote, and that zygote then has a chance to live. Um, Not all
Okay,
sperm cells live in the egg.
so a conceived zygote you find to be like the moral principle for when it becomes murder.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, let's play with that then. So by that moral principle, okay, what's your direct definition of of human life beginning, the idea of conception, and everything that goes into that process?
I would say it is when a sperm cell fertilizes a female ovary, creating a zygote, I guess.
So the sperm fertilizing the egg,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What happens? Little biology test for you. What happens after the egg is fertilized?
Mm, honestly, couldn't tell you the one. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't taken
Yeah.
biology in a minute.
So the egg gets fertilized by the sperm, and then the egg reaches the cell wall and it sticks to it, right?
Okay.
So there are cases. Are you familiar with IUDs? Do you know what they are?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So in some cases, an IUD will allow for that egg to be fertilized, but it keeps it from being able to connect to that uterine wall.
Hmm.
So, would you consider life to be stripped away from that egg being fertilized due to the fact that I can't reach the wall?
Would I find that morally wrong?
Yeah. So, do you think IUDs are murder? Like a woman with an IUD is a murderer. Would you consider that?
Murder? No, I would consider it morally wrong. I guess I
Why?
guess under that pretense you could call it murder though.
But why do you consider it to be a morally wrong?
You're stripping the egg of life. You're not letting it
Okay.
develop.
Okay, but I'm confused. So, um, by that argument, also IVF would be murder as well. Um, so what exactly is it that holds such a value to you about a fertilized egg that hasn't even reached the uterine wall yet? Therefore, it cannot grow. And like by the way, like there are some cases. I don't know exactly how many cases where a woman will have an egg that is fertilized and it never reaches the uterine wall. Like
Hmm.
something happens, and it causes for that baby to just never, you know,
Yeah.
even happen. So, what makes a form of birth control, like an IUD, a more morally impermissible? But then saying that self pleasuring yourself, preventing that sperm from being able to reach an egg, isn't morally wrong. Like, what's the difference? What's the consistency breaker in my argument?
Um, I guess. Damn, you're good. I was not prepared for this. I'll give you props for that. Um,
Thank you.
I guess it's just in my mind. I don't not trying to be a coward or anything, but I don't really want to talk about you know rape and sexual assault cases for this matter. But I think
No,
when
I wouldn't want to either.
people, choose to have sex and then, kind of go against that and then the whole, IUD or abortion, I think that's morally wrong as where self-pleasuring isn't, you're really trying to have a child. I guess there's not like a full argument in that, and I can see the confusion, but I just think it's like most people know what they're doing when they're having sex, and then going back on that, I think is morally wrong.
Um, yeah, I mean, do you think every time someone tries to have sex that they are trying to have a child?
Um, in America, no, but
Would you
I
agree
would,
with me that like in circumstances in which they're not trying to have a child, that them then performing that act is still immoral due to the fact that they'd be taking away that unique life that you value so much?
yeah,
Okay, then you would also have to explain to me, beyond like an actual point, beyond the explanation you've given me, as to why self pleasure, when there's no intent to have a baby, is still morally permissible, whereas getting an abortion is not.
hmm.
Or using proper birth control.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest and kind of going back. I'm not really trying to be a coward or anything, but I just can't give you more of an explanation than I already have, due to lack of preparation or something. Um, I think that's honestly where I'm gonna call it quits. I appreciate you debating. Appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, man. And if you do intend on doing more research, you're always welcome back up on the panel. We can pick up where we left off. I might not remember you. I talk to a lot of people daily. But if you come up and tell me that I've debated you before about the abortion debate, I can probably we can probably like get back to where we were and be able to have a productive dialogue.
All right. I appreciate it, man. You have a good night.
You as well, man.